Today I'm making a bolt action pen for a present for someone. It's a hunter. And what I'm going to do is show you how I laser engrave these and then the options you have with laser, because you can leave it just the wood, you can color it with one color or multicolors. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First I turn and sand the blank normally, and then I have it here, and what I'm going to do is put one coat of thin CA on it. And the reason I do this is when I go to color this blank later, I don't want the paint to get into the grain and bleed, and this one coat of thin will prevent that. So even if I sand this off at the end, it's just for that reason. I've got my design up in the program. I'm going to hit start and engrave the blank. I've got my 3 blanks here, and what I've done is I've organized these by what I'm going to do with them. So I chose the one to stay just engraved. I looked for the most even engrave and the way that the grain is. Sometimes you'll get light and dark spots and it makes the engraved not look as good. This one is nice and flat. This next one is going to be the black filled. And this third one is going to be an attempt at color filled. And I say attempt because I am no painter. So this one I'm not going to touch anymore. It's done as far as this step. This one I'm going to paint black. And I'm just using a little tiny brush here. And what I'm doing is trying to fill in anywhere it engraved. Now I don't want to just slop extra paint on, but I'm going to get paint over the line. And that's okay, because we'll take care of that in a minute. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I'm not a painter, as is evident by my superior painting inside the lines. But I'm really just trying to get color in there. And you'll see in a minute why that doesn't matter. I made up a green here, and it's a very intricate pine green because I didn't have green. So we'll see how it ends up looking. But I'm more or less just looking for that little bit of hint of color on these trees. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, I don't think. And then the elk, I am going to try to do like a darker brown in the front, like how the elk are actually brown, dark brown. So I'm going to do that up here. This looks really blackish, so I'm hoping it doesn't stay that way when it dries or whatever. So maybe I'll do that on the ground too. Looks really watery. So I'm getting that line on the ground with the brown. And I'm gonna just get rid of that on my paper here. This is not a painting lesson, so do not paint like this because I do not know what I'm doing. Carrie, no laughing. I'll put a little, see, I'm going to feather that in there. That's like a technique. Maybe a little darker mix, Carrie. You're laughing.
It's beautiful.
Get the antlers. Okay. Well, as terrible as that looks, if all goes well, this should look pretty cool. I'm just going to turn this on for a second. Sand off the bulk of this extra, and the black should stay down in there because it's lower, and I'm going to hold this real flat. I'm not going to push into the engraved part, and that way we can see the image. So, of course, it'll need a little more cleanup, but you kind of see it coming to life here. Now, this black pitting is what I was trying to avoid by doing that CA seal first. If I hadn't done that, it would be way worse. It'd be all over. Hopefully I can sand all this out. And I'll wipe this down once I'm done and try to get all that dust out of there. But you can see now I can kind of fine tune certain areas and try to get out that extra. So I've just been hand sanding this, and I've got almost all of my excess black spots out. And this just takes a few minutes of back and forth. And actually the dust in there, you can really see the image now, but hopefully it's all black underneath there. I've got one little spot here to finish, and then it should be good. I think I've got this about as good as I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna just lightly blow out the dust. And probably not a great idea having water below it. But this kind of gives me an idea. Carrie. So it looks pretty good. There are a couple little spots which will drive me crazy, but probably other people won't even notice, but you know how it is. So, looks nice and dark. I think that's gonna look pretty cool on a pen. Now, there's a decision to be made here, whether you want to do a CA finish and fill this in, or a friction finish. I'm actually going to do a friction finish for two reasons. One, I do CA as little as possible because I hate the fumes. It burns my eyes. And two, I like the feel of the friction finish because it's a little more wood feely versus like a plastic feel. Now what I like to do is rub the first coat on like that by hand and then let it spin a minute. And I just want to let that soak into the paint, into the cut area of the wood, and kind of let it have a minute to cure up. And then I'll go back and do the outside a couple more times. So now that that's had a sec to spin, you can see it got down in the lines really nicely. That actually came out way better than I first thought when I started sanding. And you can fairly easily tell it's an elk with some trees around it, so that's good. I'll put another coat of the friction polish on it. And I'm just kind of building up my layers here. Let me get that nice and warm. Maybe flip that over to where it's not dirty. Dirty paper towel isn't great for your clear finish. And I'm just building up some heat with this. I'm using Pens Plus, and I like to get it a little warm. And you can see just after 2 quick applications, it has a really nice shine. Now, I probably didn't sand off all my thin because it soaked into the wood, and that helps this shine as well. So in a sense, it's like a hybrid CA finish. So that is the black one, and I will probably do another coat or 2 of the friction finish in a few hours or tomorrow, and then that one will be done. So now that my black one is done, you can see how nice it is compared to this blotchy painted one, because this thing really looks a mess, but it should turn out fairly good, kind of like the other one. So I got it loaded in. I'm going to take off the bulk of the extra paint, keeping my fingers nice and flat. Looks like I got a little finish on there. Hopefully that doesn't hurt it. Just science, you know, no big deal. So let's take a peek, see where we're at. Still need a lot of cleanup, so I'm gonna go ahead and sand this by hand for a minute. And I'm just going with the grain here. So I think I'm pretty good here. I've just kind of gone around a couple times. This one cleaned up a lot easier than the black, so let's hit it with the air and see how it looks. He's kind of like a golden elk. His antlers have like a bronze or shiny to them, and then the body's brown here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same finish, the friction finish. And Again, I'm just going to do my first coat by spinning it manually to kind of let it soak in there. And you can see I'm kind of getting a lot on there, but it's okay. Then I'll turn it on. I'm just going to let that spin for a sec. That should be long enough. Now I'll just kind of come back in here, warm it up a little bit. I'm going to put just a tiny line. I don't know if you can see how much finish, not much, but just enough to get another coat on there. And I'm just building up that heat a little bit. Heat isn't always a great thing with finishes, but in this case it is. So I'm just going to warm it up. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. For being a terrible painter, that almost looks like an elk. So there you have it. They're all done. They came out pretty good. It's nice to be able to see the engraved next to a black fill and then a custom paint job, if you want to call it that. But I think these are going to make cool gifts, and they're fairly easy to do. So hopefully this kind of gave you an insight as to how I engrave and color fill. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways to do it, but this is how I do it. So thanks for watching. See you next time.